The reason I thought it was worth going back and resolving this issue once and for all is because I think it's really, really important. If you don't have a grasp for how the camera treats the information it collects and how that is affected by the lens you use, where the lens is positioned, your sensor, and so on and so on, it rather limits what you can do with your camera. If you don't know what resolution you're capturing the images in or how big the images are, it makes it rather hard to do anything like print them or share them. All right, you did your part of the deal, I'll do mine. I went on record a while ago as saying that you have to use isopropyl alcohol to store your insects in because you can't buy pure ethanol over here. In America I'm talking about. I don't know if you can buy it anywhere. I had no idea when I said that there was an actual drink as in meant to be put into the human body that is almost pure alcohol, 95% ethanol. If you're going to use pure ethanol or darn near pure ethanol, your workflow has to change for your insects. If you keep them in this, and they will last longer, their colors will stay more vibrant, they're much, much less likely to get any kind of secondary infestation with mold and stuff like that. But they will also rapidly dehydrate your insect. When you take it out of this kind of alcohol, the alcohol will evaporate. That had a label on it telling you not to drink it near an open flame. When you take your insect out, it will immediately, just in room air, room temperature, it'll evaporate, and it will cause the insect to dry out far too quickly. It can collapse eyeballs, all kinds of things. When you take it out of the alcohol, put it in a bath of water with a little bit of detergent in it. If you have any Decon 90, use a drop of that. And what that will do is the alcohol will dilute out, it'll wet the insect, and then you can allow it to air dry from after soaking in the water for about 5 minutes. The bigger the insect, the longer you need to leave it soaking, the longer you're going to need for it to dry. But word to the wise, don't try to go straight from alcohol to photograph. Yeah, that could cause all manner of problems. They're building a house next to me. All they're using is hammers and dynamite. I answer the door about 20 times a day now, and there's never anybody there. So last week, I received a brand spanking new Mitutoyo 5X long working distance infinity corrected microscope objective. And I've been taking pictures with it like there was no tomorrow. So to celebrate Mitutoyo acquisition, I am going to do a video, possibly 2 videos on this objective. We're going to be covering things like the company that makes it and what else they do and why this is such an important piece of equipment. We'll be talking about forgeries and counterfeit objectives and how many of them there are, how big a problem it is, and some of the things you can do to protect yourself if you decide to buy one from anywhere other than LIGHTGLASS optics, which would be folly, in my opinion. That is the only place to buy these. LIGHTGLASS optics has these things on sale for about half price. So if you're interested in one, LIGHTGLASS optics, I'll put a link in the show notes. It's a stupidly low price for them, and they're beautiful. In this video, or videos that I'm going to do, we're going to look at how to set it up, how to use it, what's different about this type of lens. Then I'm going to explain to you why it is such a sought-after lens, why it really is the best combination of everything. And I'll go through all of that. Now, a friend of mine, Glenn, lent me his Mitutoyo, and I had a hard time figuring out whether this was real or not. And I want to share the results of my research and also my photographs, because this is very enlightening. And I think you'll be surprised by the findings. So there's much more than than just that, but it's going to be Mitutoyo coming and going for the next couple of weeks. So I just thought I'd let you know, something to put on your calendar. Not really, you don't have to put that on your calendar. I've got a challenge for you. If you're like me, you cannot pass by an opportunity to buy an old camera that looks cool, unless it's expensive or works. I never buy working cameras because I don't shoot film anymore. And yeah, I don't want them to shoot with. I want them to put on my shelf. I'll explain why I'm sitting in the corner later, but it is a form of punishment. Anyhow, maybe you've got some of Granddad's old cameras lying around, or you collect them yourself, or you find one this afternoon when you're out buying yourself a new kimono. So here's the challenge. However you come about your old camera, what I want you to do is rip the lens off of it or them and slap it on some extension tubes and try it out. For example, I found this one. It's made by Canon. It's an f1.2. That's an incredibly fast lens. And it works. It's completely functional. And I thought, you know what? I'll turn that backwards. It takes a 58mm filter ring, slap it on some extension tubes and take some pictures. And that's what I did. Now, this lens actually is worth a bit of money. People buy these. I also learned in my research that these are radioactive, which is why I'm not putting it in my mouth as I show this to you. It's made of some kind of radioactive glass with strontium or thorium or something in it to make it radioactive. It was all the thing back in the day. That was also when they used to x-ray your feet to put shoes on you. When I was growing up in England, when my mum took me to buy a new pair of sandals for school, this cruel, cruel old man with a white beard used to make me stand in an x-ray machine and x-ray my feet to buy a pair of sandals. I wonder sometimes how many rentgens of energy were soaked into my feet. It would explain the look of my toes, right enough. Take whatever lenses you've got and take some pictures with them and send them to me and tell me what the lens is. I would love to share them and we can talk about them, have some fun with them in an upcoming video. But I can't do the video unless you send me some pictures that you've taken, and it has to be a rubbish lens. There'll be a prize. There won't be a prize. Maybe there'll be a prize. I'll tell you what, I might give away the radioactive lens. I bet you're not allowed to ship it though, are you? Have you ever heard of Bondic? I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of it till friend of the show, Glenn, sent this to me. It's just a plastic. It's a monomer, and you squeeze a little bit of liquid plastic out and it'll stay liquid until it encounters ultraviolet light, at which point it almost instantaneously polymerizes. It's the same stuff they use at the dentist. They'll fiddle around in your mouth for a while and then stick a lamp in there. It's the same kind of lamp as this, and your filling will get hard. That's what they say. I think it's something more sinister than that, to be honest. Never trusted dentists. If you've watched any of my videos in the last month, you know I go on and on about these incredible insects around here. Clown weevils, Sesbania clown weevils. And I've been photographing them every chance I get. I wanted to photograph one of these on its own plant because the Sesbania, it's a kind of marsh plant and it's very characteristic looking. There's nothing quite looks like it. They've got very smooth, dark, shiny, but hairy leaves. So I decided I needed to get a few of these leaves, but by the time I got home, the leaves had wilted. Have you ever had a warm spinach salad? That's got nothing to do with it. Just wondering, I mean, because I'm hungry right now. My leaf had wilted, so I couldn't sit anything on it because it was just flopping down. Then I had the idea, it occurred to me that I took my wilted leaves and I laid them out and got them as dry as I could. And then I painted them with Bondic and squirted the UV light on it. It worked. I had plasticated Sesbania leaves so I could position my insect on the leaf, photograph it, And at the end of the day, I mean, I used it a bunch of times. At the end of the day, the leaf was still rigid. The only problem was none of my photographs were usable. Now, I had just finished spending an entire weekend shooting this insect from every conceivable angle, and I didn't have any bad pictures. I mean, for me. So what was going on? The reason I'm bringing up this story is because this was an important thing for me to be reminded of. What was happening was the plastic on the leaf had formed a mirror-like surface. In fact, in some of these images, you can actually see the reflection of the insect. And because the leaf was hanging down with its face towards the camera, it was reflecting flash straight back off my 3 flash units right into the lens. The lens, whether it didn't matter whether it was a 50mm reversed lens or if I was using a microscope objective, everything I used was low contrast, hazy, loss of detail. And that's why I go to great trouble to close off any possible source of reflection. And the reason I'm telling you this story is that never occurred to me. So we're talking about a surface area that wasn't more than a couple of centimeters that was causing the degradation of the image quality to the point that I couldn't use the pictures. It just goes to show that the tiniest reflective surface, if it's pointed in the wrong direction, can absolutely ruin your photographs. I think we've got time for 1 or 2 more. Let's do an easy one. Have you ever seen those magazine articles that you get at the dentist's office that have got cars in them? And every now and again, they'll have a new car getting ready to go on the market and they'll take it out for a test lap or 2. And of course, all the photographers are there to photograph it, but the car manufacturer doesn't want you to know it's a car. So they wrap it up in tape so that it doesn't look like a car. But it does look like a car. It's like when I wrap up my insect holder in tape, it still looks like an insect holder, doesn't it? Does to me anyway. So even though it's a terrible idea to try to pretend it's not a car, it seems to work pretty well in this particular situation. Why would I do this? Because most of the clips and clamps and what have you that I use have shiny bits on them. So it's back to that question from before. You really need to eliminate everything shiny. It's why I use black enamel pins as well. I've started wrapping everything up in black electrical tape, which is why I brought this part up. This is a bit shinier than some of the ones that I use. Some of them are really not shiny at all. They come in all different colors. They're stretchy and they're sticky. All good things for tape. You could buy some of that black stuff that's all the rage these days, that really, really dark black stuff that sucks black holes into it. The problem is if I paint it, I always end up painting over the bits that are supposed to move and they don't move anymore. But these still move if you're careful. I just thought I'd share that with you. It's helped cut down on unwanted reflections ruining photographs. Have you ever found yourself wishing that you had a small, sturdy, unbreakable thing that could hold an insect pin at pretty much any angle? Well, I have the solution for you. This is a paper clip. It's a springy paper clip like this, and they come in all different sizes, but they're black, and you can actually get some that are black and they're not shiny at all. You can open this up, put your pin in there, and then take these little metal clips and squeeze them together, and they come off like that. So now you have this thing that's got a flat bottom that'll sit right on your stage with the pin sticking out. They're easy to move. They're easy to put a piece of double-sided tape on the bottom and they won't move, and they will hold your bug all day long without having any footprint to worry about. They basically just stick on any surface. I use that foamy double-sided picture hanging tape. One problem it's worth knowing about is you have to have a degree in something to put these back on. You can put them back on. Oh, Trick is don't put your glasses on. One other. Do we have time for one more? One more. I can't remember the last time I took a macro photograph that didn't have a piece of tracing paper involved in some way. There are as many different ways to use the tracing paper as your imagination can come up with. A lot of people like to use the thing I use, which is a tunnel made out of the stuff, you know, with your insect on a pin in the middle of the tunnel. You blast the outside with light and it gives you this beautiful, soft gradient light. But another way that I like to use it, if I have my specimen, imagine it right there at the end of my fingers, just suspended on a pin to get an even more dramatic gradient of light, rather than making a tight tube around it, which does tend to limit the drop off of the light a little bit. I like to just rest the paper over something so that it just hangs down with my insect underneath this canopy. Now, usually it'll lie down pretty much all the way like so I can have 1 or 2 or 3 lights from front, even a little bit below the specimen, and still get the effect of the diffusion from the sheet. But I didn't have a good way to be able to hang them. Sometimes you can do it with a stick mounted to the hot shoe of your camera, but then if you need the hot shoe for something, you're stuck. And I don't like anything connected to my camera or my bellows or my lenses when I'm shooting. Nothing that could be getting in the way of the focusing rail's movement. So what I did was I invented something around it. This is what I invented. This is a bendy arm. They gave it to me for free at the thrift market because it was like after 5:30 and they'd asked everybody to leave and I was still there. So they said, just take that thing and go. It's a good tactic. It works almost every time. This is a bendy arm that was on a mirror of some kind. It had a wall thing here and a mirror attachment thing here, and a bendy arm in between, and it's nice and long. It's really bendy, but see how well it holds its position? This is a stick. They come in a bag of dowels from a hobby shop. It's made of wood, and it happens to be the same size as this hole, but I had to shave it down a little bit and then just crammed it in there, and I can't get it out, so it must have worked. On my temporary platform where I'm doing my macro, ouch. Yeah, watch your eyes with this. I have a big brass bolt that fits right onto that screw. I don't know what this bolt's for. Never seen one this shape, but I'll show it to you. Well, I'll show it to you right now. Magic, there it is. And you can see it's got a thread on the outside that I screwed down into my platform, and I made multiple holes so I can move it around. And then this bit on the bottom, this was a long threaded piece, so I had to put a nylon washer screwed on there, leaving just enough of the toothy part hanging out. Now, this just screws into my macro table. And when I set up my, if I don't need it, I just keep it out of the way or unscrew it and take it away. But if I want it, what I'll do is I'll show it to you where it's set up. I'll just bend it into position, usually coming in from the side, so I'm not photographing any of this. And then I needed a way to keep my paper on, because I put it on and if it's perfectly balanced, that's great, it would stay on there. But if it was off to one side, it would fall off, especially if I was using this big piece of plastic, which is a cheap imitation of tracing paper. This is what I did. I took a file and I filed down flat areas all the way down into the stick. And then I took these tiny little magnets. These come from the laser heads on DVD players. And there's about 4 of them in there. But they fit perfectly into this little square groove. So I put them in there and I put some more of that Bondic all over the top, let it set. And now I just take my piece of paper, drape it where I want it, and then put 1, 2, or 3 teensy-weensy magnets on any of the bits of paper I want, and just dangle them like that. Fantastic. I absolutely love this. All right, that's enough. I've got more. I could keep going forever, but maybe that's the kind of thing that will be in a course. My friend in the UK, Phil Evans, who he's the person that everybody in the world goes to when they have questions about drones. I asked him what drone I should get. I wrote it down, but I couldn't read my own handwriting. I looked for a lot of high-end stuff on Craigslist because it's often very cheap. And I found a brand new Maverick Pro with the Hasselblad camera for only $5,000. Learning how to use it now, it's a lot harder than it looks. Charge only holds for about 60 seconds, so you've got to be quick. And I'm not very good at it yet, but when I am, I'll be using a lot of footage in my videos, you know, coming in over the ocean. And I need to find the batteries for the controller that he sold me for another $2,000. There's not many people have this kind of drone setup, so thank you, Phil, for your guidance on that. This doesn't look like the ones you sent me the picture of, but I assume it's because this is the fancier version of that. I'll be back in a few days with another video, but before the video comes out, you're either going to see a short or two or an announcement. I'll be doing a separate announcement that's important that you will probably want to hear. So until next time, take care, stay safe, be well, and be jealous of my drone.